Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast, brought to you by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 provides streamlined access to behavioral and mental health services, as well as crisis resources for Michigan's frontline workers and their families. This includes all professional, part-time, and volunteer firefighters, EMS, law enforcement, corrections officers, and 911 dispatchers in Michigan and their immediate family members. First responders and mental health experts collaboratively created FST5 to provide 24/7 live support, effective resources, and cutting-edge services to prevent and alleviate PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Need help now? If you are a frontline worker in Michigan or an immediate family member experiencing any crisis, work-related, substance abuse, depression, relationships, finances, or any other, reach out by calling 1-833-34-STRONG or go to FST5.org for more information. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of the hosts of the Minds on the Frontline podcast, and I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. Minds on the Frontline is co-hosted by Mike Mattern, who is also a professional firefighter and paramedic. In addition, Mike is a peer support team member for his fire department and the Frontline Strong Together 5 program, as well as the former chair of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union Behavioral Health Committee, and a board member of the Michigan Crisis Response Association. Mike has training and experience with frontline worker mental and behavioral health. On the other hand, I do not. My role is to produce the show, whereas Mike is our resident subject matter expert. Together, we hope to inform, educate, and entertain frontline workers, their families, and the public regarding the realities of frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. A career in law enforcement comes with a unique set of challenges, making it one of the most demanding professions. Historically, first responders, particularly law enforcement officers, operate in environments where admitting to mental and behavioral health struggles was stigmatized and often shunned. This cultural norm left many officers without the support they desperately needed, contributing to a buildup of unresolved stress and trauma over the course of their careers. Until recently, there was a significant lack of accessible mental and behavioral health resources for these dedicated individuals. The cumulative impact of stigma, insufficient support services, and the relentless pressure of emergency response work can take a substantial toll on frontline workers, especially as they approach retirement. The transition out of active duty can be particularly challenging as the unresolved issues from years of service come to the forefront. In this episode, we are privileged to welcome Jeff Motyka, a recently retired police officer who generously shares his life lessons and insights gained from a distinguished 27-year career in law enforcement. Jeff's journey encompassed various roles, from road patrol to undercover narcotics to high-stakes operations with heroin interdiction task forces and the DEA. His professional achievements were paralleled by significant personal challenges, including a negative impact on his family life. Now in retirement, Jeff has found a renewed sense of balance and fulfillment, and he brings a wealth of wisdom and experience to our discussion. Joining us to enrich the conversation is Scott Taylor, another recently retired police officer and peer support team member from the city of Warren. Scott also serves as a peer support team member for the FST5 program, and he is the State of Michigan Officer Wellness Liaison to the National Fraternal Order of Police. Together, Jeff and Scott offer valuable perspectives on the evolution of law enforcement careers, the importance of mental health support, and the keys to achieving a healthier work-life balance. At the end of the interview, a clinician and peer support team member will reflect on the conversation, providing insights and emphasizing key points that resonated with them. This innovative approach is designed to offer a more comprehensive analysis of the topics covered and ensure that our listeners can engage with the nuances of these important conversations. This episode's reflection segment features Manisha Leary, a clinical psychotherapist and the FST5 program manager. Joining Manisha is Officer Steve, an undercover police officer in Michigan whose identity has been concealed to protect the integrity of ongoing cases and his unit. In addition, Officer Steve is a peer support team member and the health and wellness coordinator for his department, and he is currently earning his master's degree in social work. Manisha and Officer Steve's combined experiences and perspectives are expected to enrich the conversation, offering valuable takeaways and deepening the impact of what you've heard today. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
You brought backup.
I told you I was bringing backup.
You did tell me. Yeah. Yes. I get it. So let's find out who you are. Mo, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And where do you do it?
I'm Jeff Motyka. Everyone calls me Mo. I was with the Warner Police Department for 27 years, retired back in December. I found out I'm pretty good at that too.
Oh, right? Doing nothing. I'm going to go pro. I'm going to go Hall of Fame doing nothing in retirement.
It's easier than I thought.
Right on. So give everybody an overview of your career. What did you do as a law enforcement officer for 27 years?
My career wasn't we'll call it a typical sort of career. And I spent probably half, maybe a little more than half of my career doing special jobs and whatnot, doing everything I could to not be a cop.
When you say that, you mean like a road patrol, typical, yeah. the mundane aspects of which that you didn't like. You like the exciting aspects
right.
of it.
Well, I didn't know until I did it.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I worked road patrol on midnights for like 10 years. And I got talked into, hey, why don't you apply for this undercover narcotics thing? And I'm like, I don't know. It's not really something I'm super interested in. I mean, I've watched all the movies and I go, that's pretty cool stuff. Then I guess it found me, so to speak. So there's so many, I'm going to forget half the stuff. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I hear more stories that are like, oh yeah, I do remember that.
So undercover narcotics.
I did undercover narcotics for like 3.5 years. You know, you time out on that. So I had to roll back to the road. That kind of lasted for a little bit until our boss said, hey, you and your partner, you want to do direct patrol. What's that? He goes, well, you get an unmarked car and, you got to wear a uniform, but if you wear a flannel over it, that's cool too. I don't need your answering runs, but kind of know your area and find out, what's going on. And we got a lot of in progress stuff. We caught a couple of rapes in progress, a couple of home invasions in progress, stuff like that, just by being unmarked and being around. Now, this is back in the, mid-2000s. So we didn't have all the technology we have now. We kind of did it old school.
Yeah, just out and about, being a part of the community policing aspect of it.
Yeah, but on midnights, you don't talk to anybody. Anyone you talk to, you probably need to talk to them kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that part of it.
Yeah. Not many people out at midnight.
Well, it's not like you're in Vegas where, people are out every hour all the time. No, you're in City Warren.
That rolled into hey, we want you to get into this heroin interdiction task force. And that was a department thing, and we did that for a few years. And then ended up...
What's that, interdiction?
Well, we targeted dope houses and would make traffic stops and get users and then turn those over to our narcotics unit, which I just recently left. So all the old crew, so to speak, and give them intel and information, and they would carry it on from there. So, flip some of those users into CIs, informants, whatever you want, however they wanted to do it. Did that for a little while. Then Scott and I started up the newest, I guess, second iteration of the Special Operations Unit, which is now something different than it was when we started it.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. We didn't have technology like they do now, and we did a lot of stuff old school. Frankly, I don't know how we did half the stuff we did without, we had like first gen GPS trackers. We didn't have phone pings.
Try driving across country with a map now. I'm like, oh my gosh, how come my phone doesn't plug into this piece of paper?
That's how I got here today. I used a paper map.
Really?
Yes.
Man, you're ready for the apocalypse. My man.
Well, I can read a map, and it's fun.
Well, yeah,
I'm an old man. Old men love maps. They love stuff like that.
Sure.
So I enjoyed that. I was like, I'm going to plot this on a map.
Even better. I love it. Maps don't fail.
They don't.
That's the best part.
I did have to circle the block looking for parking, but I was cool with that.
So let's start with a couple of these. So one of the things that you're...
Well, I'm not even done yet.
Oh, let him roll. Keep going, Jeff.
I'm not even done yet.
Jeff, hold on. He's not done.
He's not even close to being done.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the first half of my career.
Okay.
Then from the Special Operations Unit, I went down to the DEA as a task force officer. I was down there for 3.5, 4 years, something like that, till I was promoted. And once you get promoted, you don't get to do fun stuff anymore. I was promoted to a corporal, which at our department is a detective. So, and of course, the new detectives get the fun stuff that I wasn't super interested in, family investigations. Now, there was a little more to it than just family investigations, but the majority of it was, kid things, not crimes, because you can't call them crimes, but they're crimes. And those were not really very interesting to me after coming running hot for a handful of years, just hair on fire, just doing all the coolest stuff I could think I could do. And
so let's just clarify, it's crimes committed by juveniles, not against juveniles.
Yes, both.
Okay. All right. Just want to, when you said it's
Right,
not really
right,
a crime.
yeah. Different story.
Yeah, right.
Yes. But it was mostly like, Tommy threw a rock at Steve, and, mom and dad want to prosecute him to the full extent of the law, sort of thing. It was like
Stuff we would have settled in the schoolyard about 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that didn't super interest me, but we did do other investigations involving like CSEs, rape, stuff like that. That stuff was interesting to me. Those were good cases. You got the opportunity to talk to, some really sick people. And I know that sounds bad, but to talk and interview people like that, you get to kind of get into their mindset, and, they come in locked in like, I ain't saying nothing. And when you walk out after a confession, go, I got you. That was pretty cool. That was fun stuff. And I enjoyed that. And believe it or not, I enjoy talking to people. So it worked out well for me. You don't get to spend, 10 plus years in an undercover capacity without knowing how to talk to people, talk your way into or out of things. So you can make it home every day. So it was kind of a natural progression to do the interview thing. During that process, I went from the family investigations. We started doing some human trafficking investigations in Warren. And I'd like to think we were, I guess, tip of the spear for that. We did a lot of good work with those investigations, which carried on through once I left family investigations and the criminal investigations, then back to the narcotics unit, where we still continued some of these trafficking investigations. So I've done all the basic and different investigator things when it comes to that. After being in the narcotics unit, both as an undercover and as a detective, a bunch of years, I lose track of time. I'm not good at math, so
It's all good.
Numbers are hard.
27, man. 27. I know that much.
Yeah.
27 years.
Yeah.
It was a long time. Can't remember everything. Then I was promoted to a sergeant, and I went to a road spot. I hadn't been on the road in like 15 years. I didn't know half the people. All right. I didn't know any of the people, especially the new officers coming up. Some of the rank who'd been there. I knew some of them, but didn't really work with them because I wasn't necessarily always around or in the building or in specialized units. That was a tough thing for me to come to, but I kind of dove in and wanted to, I guess, reassess myself at that point. And instead of, being the hotshot superstar I thought I was in my head with all these other investigations and whatnot, I would say experiences I've had. I took that as an opportunity to kind of mentor and frankly purge some of that stuff out of my head and give it to some of the younger coming up officers, just so maybe they could not make some of the same mistakes I did or learn things that I learned years later when it really would have helped me a lot when I was a lot younger and a lot, things were different for me. So, yeah. And of course, then because I couldn't help myself, I jumped into being the field training supervisor for my shift. And that's a lot of work. You get new guys coming in, whether they have 1 day of experience or years of experience at another department. It's still learning the quote unquote Warren way and how to do things. And I had a lot on my plate with that. I didn't have enough on my plate though. I also volunteered to take over the canine unit. I like dogs and that's about it. I was never a handler. I thought they were cool.
So you were supervising the canine unit,
Yes.
When maybe visiting Missile and Meat Rocket, whatever their names are.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, they are, man. You think those Malinois? Those things, man.
Oh yeah, that stuff's really cool.
They get you on Meat Rocket or Missile.
I didn't know if you were talking about the dogs or going to a club or something. Now on stage is Missile, followed by Meat Rocket.
Hey, double down now, double tricks out. Let's welcome Meat and Meat Rocket to the stage.
You watch those dogs go. That's a Meat Rocket right there.
All right, you call it that.
Yeah, sure, bro. We'll just act like that didn't happen, but all right, keep going.
Yeah, and then I just kind of moved on through, and my time came up, and I decided it was it.
So you did a lot.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that's not as atypical in the sense of like you went after every available opportunity, and you see this out of 10% of the people that get into what we do.
Yeah,
they just get after it.
Yeah.
So what drove you to get after it like that? What were you running from? Just kidding. What made you feel that calling to go that hard at it? Like you've said a number of times, running in the red, hair on fire.
Unfortunately, it felt natural. It was. I had an aptitude for it. I felt like I did well, and I was kind of. I didn't just put myself in for those programs. I was recruited for them. I was asked, "Hey, will you join this? Hey, will you consider doing this? Would you put in for this kind of thing?" And I like to think I worked at a high and professional level for my entire career, and in doing so, that body of work showed itself, and I was rewarded with those special, if you want to call them, jobs. At the same point, though, I look back now, and that was probably maybe not the best idea.
That was my follow-up question, because running in the red, there's no free lunch.
No.
We can go real hard on some. I'm like you. I'm like, I want to do that, and then I could do this. I had a hard time saying no. Oh, I can accomplish that, yet you're recruiting me to do this. I can make that happen.
Yeah.
What was the cost for you in that?
Oh, man. The cost is innumerable, to be honest with you. I mean, at the most basic level, 2 marriages. I don't really talk to my adult kids. I haven't in a couple of years. I wasn't home. I wasn't there when they were young. I wasn't there for my families at the time. And honestly, if I ask my wife now, she said the first couple of years when I was in special ops and in DEA, like, I'm surprised we made it. We've been married 10 years now. And like, those first couple of years were rough. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you weren't even here. I go, okay, but we're still married. And that gave me pause to think. And, I wasn't. I was, doing what I thought was right. And in my mind, I'm out working hard for my family. I'm out making money as best I can. I'm doing this job to the, at the highest level, and it's great and it's amazing. And she's grounded me to the point where not grounded, like not allowed to go out after.
It brought you back to reality
Yes,
in a neutral position of health. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it made me think, well, yeah. But how beneficial was that? And it really wasn't. I just had the wrong thing in mind, the wrong priority, so to speak. I took it more as, this is a purpose and a calling, and this is what's best, and this is the way to do it. And it just really didn't sink in. It was a lot of stuff that I didn't even recognize until it was,
till that moment.
Hopefully not too late. But
when did you realize? Like, it sounds like you've come to like a realization. When did it come from?
Well, let me put it this way: there was a time right after I got promoted to sergeant, and I was in the narcotics unit as a detective. And one of the things was, we would work 2 months on a day shift and then 2 months on an afternoon shift. So that's enough to screw up a family life as it is. But during those afternoon shift hours, I live about 45 minutes from work. So on those days where I'd be working 4 to midnight, I would leave my house on Monday. I'd come in for court on Monday afternoon, and I'd work. And instead of driving all the way home, luckily my mom lived in the city, I'd stay at my mom's house, and I'd go back and forth between court and work. And instead of putting in a 8-hour day, I'm putting in a 16-hour day, and I'd go home Friday afternoon. But I was making the money.
Right. Objectively, it felt like the right move then.
Yes. Well, not even objectively. How about stupidly?
Well, no. It felt like the right move. You get the cash coming in. You're doing a noble deed. You're doing things, but you're saying is you were completely out of balance.
Absolutely.
Well, and when you're doing these and you're living that role, that's all you see is I'm successful. Look, we're getting the bad guys. We're doing this, and you're on call. I mean, there was times you and I together probably worked 40 hours straight and without going home. As we were on something, and it'll take a toll on you. It'll take a toll on your family.
Yeah, that's the number one. I can't imagine being gone that long. I can't even imagine it.
But you know what? If you do it for so long,
you get used to it.
That's a problem. That's the problem.
Yes.
It's very romantic, the idea that put all the hours in, you do. One of the big reasons that I do what I do at the fire department is the schedule.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. We love the job, everything with it, including the schedule.
In 9 days, I'm off 6 of them.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like it affords us that off time, but you can easily get caught up in all the special stuff. You know what I mean? The special teams, the kind of the sexy jobs.
And how often have you seen this story play out?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And to a certain extent, I think it happens to everyone who's invested in the job. They want to be the best at what they do. Mm-hmm. They want to be the top of the heap. You work with a bunch of alphas, and everybody wants to be the alpha of the alphas. And you get into these, and you start looking, and you talked about the money. You know, you're thinking, oh, I'm bringing in a ton of money. I'm providing for the family. I'm making sure food on the table. They got clothes. They got this. And then you do. At some point, you look back, and you go, holy shit, I'm deep into this now.
The irony reveals itself by saying, I was doing this to make my family healthier when in fact you were breaking it up.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the best worst part. When all the special units are basically on like 8-hour shifts and whatnot. Well, when I went back to the road, they're on 12-hour shifts. So not as cool as a fireman's schedule, but
not even close.
I'm working. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But from working every day, just about 14 days a month. Oh my gosh, I had so much time. I didn't know what to do with myself. And in that time, and after my first, year as a road sergeant, I made significantly more money without the overtime, without the, the time away from home, no court time. I was gone for 12 hours and
check in, check out, done.
Yeah.
And for the 2 years I was just burning the candle at both ends and in the middle, I made a lot more money doing a lot less, so to speak. That was eye-opening. I was like, what did I do? What did I do?
Right. And it's hard to stop in the middle of all this when you're saying yes, and it feels good to say yes to get on another team and do another special project, put another feather in the cap. Those things are so addicting.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there. And sometimes you don't want to look back because you don't want to even think you're making the wrong move.
Yeah.
When you're forced to, the veil comes up, and there's reality. It's like, shit.
Yeah.
I zigged. Should have zagged.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think while you're going through it, you're doing it to benefit not only yourself but somebody else. You're getting the training. You're like you guys are going after the worst of the worst. You know what I mean? You're seeing results where you're doing something good for the community. You're doing something good for the greater good. And that plays a part in too. You're thinking, well, shoot, I'm doing these special teams. These are like for the high level stuff. We're making a difference by doing this. But you lose kind of sight at what's going on at home.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where you said you work hard. We started one of our days one of the longest days we worked. We started out at about noon in Warren, Michigan, ended up 36 hours later via Warren, Ohio and Pennsylvania. Came home. Yeah. And our boss was nice enough to say, hey, don't come back for 8 hours. He was single. My wife was working, so him and I went to the bowling alley and drank and bowled for 6 hours and went back to work. Because that's how we decompressed.
That's how you off-gas.
That's how we decompressed. That's exactly what we did.
Yeah, you didn't have a re-entry.
Right.
You just
came back to work.
Enter anything. You didn't go back anywhere. You just stayed in the work loop.
A lot of coffee, a lot of chew, and you got through another shift.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't a money motivator.
No.
Because I'm terrible with math. I'm terrible with money. I don't know the value of a dollar, like my wife tells me. It's a joke. I do.
Sure.
It's 98 cents.
It's a buck.
So, but it was when you get involved in those special units, 5 guys, 10 guys, a 20-man SRT team. You're there for your team. You're there for your scout car partner. And I got to go into work. I got to do this. I can't let these guys down. I can't let them down.
Right.
You know what, honey, kids, it'll be fine. I'll be back later. You'll be there.
Right.
Until they're not.
Right.
So, it's you get lost in that family.
It's almost like you create this false expectation where nobody talked about it, where it's like, no, we're doing this for the team, right, guys? And they're like, hey, nobody consulted us. I know you're doing this for your team, but like, we're just trying to like get school stuff ready for tomorrow. Could use another hand. This kid's sick. All this is going on. That's going to wear you down.
Yep. I got to go.
And you kind of feel like, well, I'm going to get the bad guy. Like, you're never going to get all the bad guys.
No, and when you do, you don't. It doesn't matter.
catch a release, right?
It really doesn't matter in the long run.
Wait, what you're saying is the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on the amount of energy you put in and the effect that it had on your family.
Looking back,
It wasn't like you failed as a law enforcement officer. You were still doing the job effectively, but it was taking away so much from your personal life
yes,
that you couldn't balance the two.
no, that's a very, very fine line to walk, and it's so fine you don't even know where it is half the time.
Did you ever go into the booze heavy? Did you become an alcoholic? Any of that other than the
Do you want me to answer that, or do you want
I've had a day or two.
Yeah.
Did you find that was a coping mechanism?
We thought it was.
Yeah,
Like when you had a rough day, let's go get
Yeah,
a
we
beer.
thought it was.
it was something to do, something to decompress, just
Right.
to get away. Yeah, didn't really work,
No,
But
that's the whole point, right?
but it made you feel better maybe for a minute. But okay.
Yeah, until the next morning, right?
Mhm.
We had to go back and start over again.
Yeah, a time filler.
Sure. Okay, so looking back, you come from the old school.
Oh yeah,
You're one of the last ones, dude.
I know.
There's, when we started in the fire service, there was even like 1 or 2 Vietnam vets still left.
Oh, absolutely.
They were still there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you remember a lot. You got trained by him, I bet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a couple non-vets that were quite interesting. Let's
They're
put it
very
that way.
interesting,
oh, yeah.
but like it just speaks to the time. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Not I'm like, no, I worked with guys who were in Vietnam, and I was born in the '80s, right? And so you're one of our last generation coming through this. You've seen the entire world accept emotional and mental behavioral health way more than it used to.
Oh yeah.
So knowing how the world has changed in a good way for that, dissolving that stigma, what do you have to say to law enforcement officers that are coming up in those first 5 to 10 years when it really starts to, you feel the weight? Before 5 years, you're gung-ho on everything. Everything's great. Everything's amazing. I love life. 5 to 10, you start to feel that 7-year itch, all that. What do you have to say to those people?
I'll tell you what, if I knew how to find balance earlier in life, I think my life would be quite different. At the end of the day, it's still a job, and you have to treat it as such. And, if you immerse yourself and become so involved in it where it's what you identify as or who you identify as a police officer or whatever, that's not healthy. You have to have other things. You have to have a hobby or an outlet other than this, because it can become all-consuming. And when it becomes all-consuming, all you do is spend your time with other cops. And when it's time to decompress, what do? You go hit the bar, have a couple of drinks. Okay, but and what do you do there? You talk about work. You complain about work. It never goes away, and you got to get away from it somehow. And whatever that is for whoever you are, you just need to find that perspective and step away from what it is. I'm not saying don't care about the job, don't care about doing it at a high professional level. You should know your job, do it as professional as you possibly can, be empathetic and compassionate. But at the same point, don't take everything personally. Don't take it to heart. You can still, love their brothers and sisters you work with. You have to find time for yourself. If you don't find time for yourself, if you don't find a different outlet, it's gonna just keep pulling you back in, and you're just gonna be in that cycle. And that's what I would say is, just remember this is a job. And I was told many, many years ago, it still sticks in my head, that this job is the vehicle by which we recreate. And that can be, it pays for a golf trip or, boats, toys, four-wheelers, whatever. At the root of this, we're here to make money. This job is the ultimate service industry. This isn't, it's the same thing as any other service industry. Waiters, waitresses, hotel workers, any of these things. Everyone provides a service. We provide a service that can be dangerous, can be frustrating, and to people who maybe necessarily don't even want us there, but we still have to provide a service. And when you take that to heart and, take it personally, that's where it starts to becomes frustrating, and you can go down a bad road and get, disgruntled or angry or frustrated. If you find yourself in that position at your job, find something else. I'm not saying leave the profession, but, maybe try to find a different unit or find a different focus as to what you do. If you work a certain area that's really wearing you out, go to a different area, find a different job, take a break from it for a second. You can still do the same thing, but maybe it can be a different same thing, if that makes any sense.
It does. Let's face it, I'm not leaving
the
department I'm in. I'm vested.
Exactly.
I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
But there may be other opportunities for me to get out of the role I'm in, which may get me out of my little loop.
Right.
A lot of people don't know they're in the loop.
No.
They don't realize it until it's too late.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize till a problem arises that they're in that loop.
Like you said, when your family left.
Mm-hmm.
That's way too late.
Yeah. It was. Yep, it was. It is what it is.
You're a recent retiree.
Yes.
Talk about that transition from going to, I'm on all these teams. I've done all these things. Like you talked about it. Your hair was on fire eventually.
Too many times.
It burned off.
Yeah, burned it right
Apparently
off.
burned off.
Yeah.
How is that transition going from being that person to now into retirement?
Just mowing a flannel from the guy undercover and doing cool die stuff.
That's who I am. It's just, I would say I've kind of been preparing myself for this for some time. When I got promoted, I left, the SRT team, the sniper team. I left those things. Those are jobs for the other guys to do. I could hang on to it till my very last day, but why? Someone else needs that opportunity. Someone else needs to learn that job and do that job. I stepped away from a lot of things so that other people can learn these things and do them. You can't be the only one, everyone's replaceable, but if someone doesn't learn it, you're going to be, you're going to leave the team in a lurch, so to speak. Like, oh, hey, I'm gone. Good luck. See ya. I train somebody up, get them up to speed, bring them up, So I left those things a few years back, and I don't regret it. Being retired, that transition, and I guess I had several people come up to me before I left, and I'm going to answer your question. I promise.
No, hey, you're good. You're doing fine.
I've had a couple people come up to me and go, "Oh man, you're gonna be bored. What are you gonna do? You got a job. You can go to a small department. You're gonna do private security. You're gonna do this, that, or the other." I go, "I'm not doing nothing, man. I'm not doing anything." They're like, "No, you're gonna get bored. Guys like us aren't wired that way," and that really stuck. And I went, I wasn't wired this way when I was born. I wasn't wired this way 10 years ago. I've reinvented myself like 7 times in this career. I'm not wired to be going full on all the time. Well, I just took that wire and snipped that off, and I've been enjoying life at home. My daughter calls me the stay-at-home dad, and I affectionately refer to it as a property manager.
Yeah.
So right. I'm running back and forth.
I'm the logistics coordinator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm running back and forth to schools, making coffee in the morning for my wife, doing stuff around the house that normally I would do, but now I have a routine, and
it's satisfying. You got a little role you're in your own little tribe. Like, there's my role. I get everybody ready, get them out the door.
And I've been gone for so long. It's nice to be home, and it's nice to be there and to enjoy it and realize I should have picked that cabinet like 6 years ago. I guess I'll do that today.
That's the most old guy thing ever.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a loose thing up there I got to fix. Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's the dream, though.
It is, and it's satisfying.
That's awesome.
It's actually more satisfying.
Yeah, you're glowing a bit as you talk
Yes.
about what you're doing, and that's the only thing that matters. Like, people talk about being bored in retirement. I'm like, you want a little bit of boredom because boredom will inspire creativity to do other things. Without boredom and time, we wouldn't have art and music.
You don't want to know the stuff I've done.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's the whole point. It's like there's so many things that I remember doing as a kid and finding out I liked them and interests and hobbies that came out of boredom, like messing with stuff. So you did all the right things by at least setting yourself up to not be destitute. You got some bucks. Yeah. You can live a life. You got a wife now with a healthy relationship. Yeah. Well, from there, great. Your plan is just to be healthy and recognize what you have. Absolutely. Some people do need a little more structure in retirement.
Yeah, it's true.
But you're like, no, dog, I need a minute.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm totally good.
And who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go work at a golf course. Who knows? You never know. Whatever.
I'm thinking greeter at Walmart.
Greeter at Walmart.
No, I'm not going anywhere near Walmart.
And he is definitely not going to work at a golf course. I'll tell you that right now.
Whatever, yeah.
No.
I was kicking around, the hardware store.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect.
You got the hardware store look. You look like Al Borland right now.
I thank you much. I can take that as a compliment.
You're going to be working in a junkyard, taking parts off cars. That's what you're going to do.
I might do that. That was my dream job for a little bit. I
Really?
want to
Taking
be
parts off cars?
I want to be a junkyard stripper, so I could go and take all the decent parts off cars, and they can sell them online. I go, I
Why
can
not?
do that. Yeah. It's a job.
Good for your brain,
I could
too,
do it.
mechanical aptitude.
Yeah. They call them disassemblers. I like junkyard stripper, but okay.
Junkyardstripper.com. It might not be taken. You might want to sign that up now.
If you've never been to a junkyard because working on old cars,
Oh, yeah. No, I've been in that position. Like, I need a thing.
those are the coolest places ever. I go and get what I need, and then I wander around for an hour.
Yeah.
They're just so much fun.
You're a kid in a candy shop.
You gotta
Absolutely.
get a business card, junkyard stripper Mo.
I'm saying, I
Yeah.
would buy that domain today.
Yes.
Hey, let's welcome Mo to the junkyard.
Along with meat missile and
Yeah. Those are his coworkers.
So we asked you, that your advice for that 5 to 10 year guy, right? In the 15 year to 25, you kind of touched on is you hit it. Be ready, kind of prepare yourself and kind of relieve yourself of duties as your way out. It sounds like a very healthy way how you did that. You kind of remove the veil and given a little reality to it for those officers of like, look, you got to have balance. You got to have connections outside of this gig. What perceptions could you dismiss or discuss on the other side for the general public? Because let's face it, in 2024, law enforcement's still getting a bit of a rap from a large segment, maybe not a large, but a loud segment of our communities that have opinions. And I think a lot of times people don't realize what you do for a living.
Right.
So what do you say to the general public on the impact of what police officers do in the United States so that maybe they can have a better understanding of what you do and appreciate the fact that it's not always easy on you?
I would still go back to what I said earlier. The police service, whatever it is, a service industry, right? So do you get mad at the clerk at the store? Well, sometimes you do, but that's his job. That's how he provides for his family. This is a job that, men and women have taken on because they, for whatever various reasons, right? Want to do good, want to help people, want to catch the bad guy, whatever it might be. That's the career path we've taken. It's a job, it's just.
So just don't assume the officers around you are on some weird power trip. They're just at a job performing their job.
Exactly. They're just like you. They have the same problems, just because we all wear the same shirt every day to work,
Makes it easier to figure out what you're wearing. I do like that aspect of the gig.
You know what? The first thing I did after I retired, I wore a different shirt every day because I said, I'm not putting a uniform on ever again. I'm like, this is awesome.
Ever. I'm not shaving, and I'm not wearing that shade of blue ever again.
Yep.
Did you go through the ritual of cutting all your uniform shirts up and burning them?
No.
I did that about 3 weeks ago. I'm short timer, and I literally cut everything up. And what I could salvage to donate to homeless, we did. But if it was embroidered, a patch, a case of beer, cut it up, and had a bonfire. It was awesome.
Some guys walking around in Scott's cop pants.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I love that idea.
No, I'm using them as shop shirts.
Yeah.
In my
even
garage.
better.
That way I don't ruin my shirts.
Well,
My
I don't
wife
get rid of
doesn't
the
get mad at me.
T-shirts. I
Even
love
better.
the old T-shirts.
We don't get to wear T-shirts. We're
Well,
policemen.
Well, that's your problem.
No, my uniform shirt, I'd work underneath my car, get all nasty, dirty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Perfect. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Then I don't get a shirt like this all grimied up.
Yeah, that's like a tux for you.
Yeah.
It is.
So after 27 years, you said there's no, there really weren't the resources we have now. Obviously, nowadays we have a plethora of resources. Mainly, we've got Frontline Strong right now, FST5 as one of them. But what are some of the changes that you would like to see in the law enforcement community and first responders in general when it comes to services that people use, that are available to you, those types of things?
Let me start with a story.
Okay.
Some people know this. A lot of people I work with know this. My father killed himself back in 2000, and he did it on New Year's Eve. So it's not a random day of the year. It's New Year's Eve every year. I think about it and go through that. And my parents lived in the city. I was off that day, but I came over to the house and got to help find my dad. The services and stuff I received from the department were, when are you coming back to work? I didn't really get any services. I didn't know there was anything out there. So I've gone through life with this forever and ever, and it's very difficult. And it always, strikes a chord when even guys who know what happened and the things you've gone through, dealing with all that stuff. It obviously is a sudden issue, and, taking care of my mom and getting her stuff squared away. And that stuff doesn't happen overnight, especially when it's an event like that. But what I would urge is know that their service is out there, and we don't know because nobody tells us. Scott's done a great job of bringing the wellness program to the department. I've talked to a couple of the wellness people just over the past years about some things going through and whatnot, and it's very helpful. But the biggest thing that I would find is it's tough for cops to trust anybody, even coworkers, because you don't want to show weakness. You can't show like this, I'm going through a hard time. You can't. It's very difficult to open up like that because, like we talked about earlier, you have to be the alpha. You have to be the alpha of alphas. You can't show weakness. And, I guess in my mind at that point in my career and in my life, I was that guy. And if I said anything to anybody or talked to anybody, what's that do to me? What does that do to my ego? I don't have an ego anymore. I don't care. I just don't. It doesn't, I don't care what you think about me. Okay, your opinion doesn't matter to me. The only opinion that matters is my wife's, and that's all that matters. So I don't care now, but I did for a very, very long time. And I would say I really would encourage officers to go through life with some compassion and empathy for what people are going through. We walk into the worst situations all the time, and take a step back and realize these are people too. They're just like us and we're just like them. It's just we're doing a job and they're calling for help. Sometimes you can't provide that immediate help, but you have to have the ability to figure something out. Think on the fly, use your brain, problem solve. I think the key and for law enforcement agencies is not only to, adopt a wellness program, but make it in such a way that officers would feel comfortable doing it. Make it anonymous if you want to talk to somebody. And I know there's some resources out there for that. Provide that information to officers so they know it. Don't just put it on a flyer on the backboard where, there's also a dirt bike and a camper for sale. No one looks at that stuff. So it needs to be integrated in such a way that everyone has knowledge. And if you don't have knowledge, shame on you. But that comes back to a point where a peer and a supervisor need to recognize what's going on with your people too. You got to know what's going on with your friends. Don't just be like, hey man, what's up? It's a bad day. All right, cool. Let's go get a Slurpee. And I'm not saying, twist somebody's arm to get to the root of the problem. Just a kind word like, hey man, if something's sideways, let me know. We've all been there. I'll be more than happy to share crappy stories from my life for anybody, so they don't experience the same things, or at least know they're not alone. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just doing what you did here today, I think it's beneficial not on all the frontline workers, is hearing it from those who came before. I've walked this road. This is what I've experienced, and you give them that roadmap of, hey, it's okay. You look at you guys who have done 27 years, an entire career. You've tried every job possible. You were the man. You know what I mean? And to hear somebody like that come talk to you and go, yeah, this is where I would have done something different. Or listen, I did this. Don't do this. I think that holds a lot more water than any paper on a board or pamphlet that you can hand out or whatever it may be. It's doing what you're doing today. And I think that's where a lot of these programs that have peer support or wellness programs that bring in or have retirees on their teams, they're the ones that will succeed the most because they're learning from the previous generation. What you say holds a lot more weight than what a flyer could be handed out or a video produced or whatever it may be, because it's real life. It's, hey, listen, this is what I went through. And that's why I think it's awesome that you came here today and you were able, you told us your story and and a lot of stuff, because that's, I think, one of the biggest things with these programs. And I appreciate you coming on here and talking about all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because that is what's going to make a difference to these newer generation, newer officers, and even the ones who are there. I mean, you're talking to fellow retirees now too.
Right.
As well. And the retirees, as we know, is a big community where sometimes they get forgotten with the wellness programs.
They absolutely get forgotten. And they take the problems they had, and they just took them with them.
Yes.
So now they have the same problems in retirement.
Yes.
Right. And they didn't come up through a culture where we were kind of, like you're saying, is make it a priority list to check in and provide services. Not just the stigma. That's like a passive way. Hey, just don't be a dick. That's a passive thing.
Right.
No, in addition, be a good person and check in on them. And as an administrator, have a system when somebody says, I need help.
Right. Yeah. They all came up that suck it up buttercup.
Totally.
Which is just so wrong.
Well, it's a very efficient answer. It moves us on to the next thing, right? Which is the point in emergency services is we're always waiting for the next thing to happen. So we like to get the problems or the things where we go like this. Those things we like to get off our plates immediately when we feel that way about that. And I hope what you're conveying and people are understanding is you can't eye roll this problem. It's going to steamroll an industry. We have to take it away. And you are hopefully the last generation that works 2+ decades, almost 3, under circumstances that are too much without an outlet. Because I'm hoping there are people out there that are as motivated as you to accomplish what you accomplished in a balanced way that allows them to exit and be like, all right, I'm going to clown school or whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Happily. Without any stories of culminating into bad experiences.
Yeah.
So, Mo, is the last stage of your career as a supervisor, do you think that this younger generation of first responder is more receptive to the wellness thing, the being open, the lack of stigma, or do you think that it hasn't changed?
I think it's kind of an individual basis, to be honest with you. I know that doesn't answer your question, but
no, it does.
But it's the truth. It depends on the person. If it's something that they personally believe in, and if it's something that they personally would consider taking advantage of, you still have some people who are just like, all right, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine. But that person's going to have to learn the hard way or figure it out the hard way. Unfortunately, some people are just hard-headed enough that it doesn't matter what you say. They gotta learn that mistake themselves. They gotta make that mistake themselves. You can tell me, hey, the stove's hot, the stove's hot, the stove's hot. Don't touch it. They're going to touch it because they don't want to believe you.
Yep.
Okay. Now that the stove is hot, let's do something about that.
We've talked about it a lot. There's not a single one of us who comes out of the first responder community unscathed. There's not. We are not the same person walking out the door on retirement day that we did walking in. Yep. And like you said, hopefully people get more receptive to it, so that more people walk out the door closer to what they were when they walked in than when they walked out.
Oh, we're all broken.
Oh,
it doesn't matter how.
It's just to what degree are we broken?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, nobody walks out unscathed.
Correct.
No, you can't.
Well, hopefully future generations leave the lot with a lot of preventative maintenance along the way instead of leaving it as a jalopy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yep. We're not spitting out a brand new car at the end, but we're going to make sure that thing lasts a while.
Well, if it is broken down, the junkyard stripper will
the
get the parts off of it.
I got you.
JYS.
Yep. I got you.
It was an absolute pleasure to have you today, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for
really
representing your community and all the work that you've done over the years. And I hope that your retirement is healthy, happy, and really long.
Me too. Thank you very much.
And if I need car parts, I know who I'm going to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And now we welcome Manisha Leary and Officer Steve as they provide their reflections. Their combined experiences and perspectives will enrich the conversation, offering valuable takeaways and deepening the impact of what you've heard today.
Welcome back to our reflections that we have after our dynamic interviews, just to get another perspective on the guests that we have and the take that we want to drive home with these episodes about understanding the need for 360 health, integrating your mental health with your behavior health. I am Manisha Leary. Most of you guys know me. I'm program manager for FST5. And today I'm joined with another FST5 peer, Steve, who will introduce himself, but we will go ahead and break down this episode for you guys.
Yeah, I'm Officer Steve. I work at a police department here in Metro Detroit, 12 and a half year veteran, been super blessed to have a pretty well-rounded career in just a short 12 years. Started off in patrol, field training officer, worked a border crime initiative for a couple of years, was selected to SWAT, police sniper, local narcotics, Michigan State Police Narcotics Task Force, and most recently selected to the peer team, which we started here at our department. After that, I linked up with Frontline Strong, started about a year and a half ago now as a peer trainer. On the front end of that, I was interning for my bachelor's degree, which I decided to finish up after a few things in my life happened. Finished my bachelor's in counseling and psychological sciences, and now I'm currently going through their MSW program.
Awesome. Very amazing. Just when you're thinking you're doing such a great job at all the things, then you hear Steve, who has done all the things and is doing all the things, and you're like, okay, I need to do more.
There's always more to do.
Always more to do. All right. So this episode with Jeff was amazing. I thought he had such a great, not only career, but perspective in transitioning to retirement.
Yeah, everything that I actually listened to it twice just because everything that he was saying, I just immediately related to everything I'm going through with everything I've done. Seems like he's super well-rounded too, or was in his career. The main thing that stuck out immediately was the running in the red when they were talking about running in the red and your hair's on fire. And I had done the exact same thing 4 years ago. And getting into this field with Frontline Strong in this arena, it really showed me that you got to take a step back because you don't realize you're going through it when you're running through it. The importance of just removing yourself, and it's so hard to while you're doing that, but the importance of that and giving yourself the time away from work, the work-life balance, because you're really sacrificing so much when you're going through it. He talked about the cost of the profession, the time, your health, your growth, and then your family. The family for me was also a big thing. I was at the dinner table constantly getting calls from work, middle of the night, giving up weekends. But when you are in spots like this, or even patrol, like New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve is on a Wednesday, Christmas Day is on a Thursday. Cool story. We'll see you at roll call at 6 a.m. It's just the constant giving that you have to make sure that you have that work-life balance. When you're working, you're working. When you're at home, you're at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was really compelling as well, because what he mentioned was that sometimes you don't recognize what you're giving up until you're in a space where you're like, wow, I missed so much with my family. I've missed so much in these areas. Having the thought process to really try your best to create some boundaries around the work, boundaries around when it's okay to let work kind of intersect into home life and when it's not. And so that you can make sure that that becomes your home, still that sanctuary for you, where you want to say, this was a life well lived and I got to share it with the family. I really liked when he touched on like your career becoming your identity, it becoming who you are. And then also kind of having like this group identity. I'm a part of this bigger group with being in law enforcement and being in those different areas, and then kind of losing that when you're transitioning out or when you're retiring and not having that anymore. And that can be really difficult to deal with. So Steve, what do you think about being able to separate your identity, that your career does not become who you are?
Yeah, that's another thing that, when you're in it, you're just like, okay, what's the next thing I can do? Now I'm made it 4 years, 5 years on, whatever. What's the next step for me? What's the opportunity? And it's very easy to make this career your identity. But, at the end of the day, you have to remember we're all replaceable. You could be the most well-trained, the most well-versed in the tactical side, the, compassion side when you're out there dealing with citizens, or you could be a master of this craft. But at the end of the day, you're replaceable. We have to understand this is still a job, like Mo said. And one thing that's really helping is just going back to that, making sure you understand and have a healthy work-life balance. Family, if you have it and you're blessed, be intentional with your time at home. Make sure that you leave the job as much as you can. We all understand there's certain positions where your 40 hours very quickly turns into 80 hours a week. But put your phone down when you walk in the door. Go outside, play ball with your kid. Even if you don't want to and you're tired, just do it. Because not only is it giving you the opportunity or then the opportunity to have some quality time when you're not there on the weekend because you get pulled away, or you're not there on Thanksgiving because, you have to go work your beat. It also gives you the opportunity to kind of, even though you don't want to, and you still might be thinking about X, Y, and Z at work, eventually it's still going to come out. You're going to have that enjoyment. Be intentional with your time. That's all I can say at home, because we're all intentional with our time at work. We're at work, we're thinking about work, and we're doing work. And the identity you brought up, I've talked to so many guys that are on the back end of their careers or have left this job early who really have made this job, and that's what it is, a job, their identity. And they struggle mightily when they step away because all of a sudden, for them, I've heard it a couple times, it's just silence. You go from the hustle and bustle, trying to get the next bad guy and when's the next search warrant we're doing, but then all of a sudden, one day it just stops. And you need to make sure that you're healthy outside of work, your decompression time, your coping skills, whatever you want to call it, don't lose yourself while you're doing this job. While you're going through this job, before this job, you have you. But when this job is done, it's done. So make sure that you stay true to yourself and make sure you don't lose your identity in these 25 short years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mo had some really good examples about the coping skills too. Like if you don't, when you're like, oh, I don't have time for the things, but if you have time to go to the bar, then you have time to go to the gym, right? So kind of creating habits for yourself, because when we talk about like negative coping skills versus positive coping skills, any kind of skill or any type of habit that you have, it becomes a habit because you consistently do it. You consistently, repetitively put it in your life and put it in your practice. So if you find yourself getting up and working out every morning, that will quickly become easier for you because that's something that you put in your life. Same if you want to just lay on the couch or just not do things or drink, it can also become a habit for you. So trying to integrate good coping habits for your mental health. So again, if that's reading a book, taking some time away, making sure you're getting your water intake, making sure you're getting good sleep, all of these things could be habits that can easily be implemented in your life that will help with this transition of, okay, these are the things that I need to do to even give yourself the energy. Because Mo also talked about when you struggle with that identity and things kind of go quiet and kind of having that silence, you feel like you're just physically drained. You're tired. You don't have the energy to do the things anymore. And so I think when you can create habits for yourself that keeps you in a space where you have the energy, you're working, you're performing at a higher level in anything that you do, the transition can be a lot easier as well.
Absolutely.
What are some other good takeaways that you had from those interview?
Just a couple more. At the end, he was talking about the question, something along the lines of what have you seen change over the course of your career? And he may mention that everybody's different, but kind of as a whole, over the last 2 or 3 years since I've been working in this wellness health arena, the generational gap is huge. We're kind of phasing out the back end of the baby boomer generations and pretty good stronghold of the 80s babies slash older millennials. I'm not in love with the term of calling myself a millennial, but we'll save that. I prefer 80s baby, but we saw the front end. We were trained by the boomers. They spoke to the Vietnam vets. I still had a couple of Vietnam vets when I got hired on a long, long while ago. But the new kids, I'm 40, I'll say kids that are coming on, they're going to be a big chunk of our workforce in the next 5 to 10 years. They're open to talking. They see the benefits. Us as the 10 to 15-year veterans, we want to have a healthy retirement. We want to make sure that we're mentally healthy, we're emotionally fit, we're happy, and we can enjoy our golden years. The shift that's coming, I can't speak more of because we're getting buy-in from other officers. We're getting buy-in from our administrations. The availability of our resources now are more than I've ever seen in 12 and a half years. So the fact that this is moving forward and it's moving forward so quickly, I can't speak enough good things about this and the programs that are out there like FST5.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the resources that we have available now are so far more advanced than when you guys first came in, just like you said, the generational gap. And then also we see more of a willingness and more of an acceptance around asking for help. A good example of that is peer support. So being able to come, most departments now are getting a pretty well-rounded peer support team, or at least someone in the department that is like your officer wellness or your wellness person that you can go to and kind of talk to that person. And that's still a actual member who's a peer support. So we want to encourage people to reach out to your peer support teams, talk to people who have really good coping skills or habits that you see, and then just talk to individuals. If you're feeling like something is different, something's not right, and you need to talk to someone, there's plenty of people that you can talk to. FST5, definitely a good resource for that. We have our crisis and resource line that you can call and just talk to someone. The number is 1-833-34-STRONG. Talk to anyone just for anything. If you're just feeling stressed out, if you need resources in daycares, like any of the things, we want to make sure that it's there for first responders and their families. And so I think it's important that we continue to give out resources to help people as they're transitioning. All right, this is great. This is a great reflection. That was an amazing episode. I want to encourage people to continue to look at our podcast and visit our website, fst5.org, for all of our new resources that are coming on there monthly and all of the trainings and activities that you can be involved in through FST5 that's offered to our first responders and their family members throughout the state of Michigan.
Thank you for joining us on the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.